I'm joined today by Emma Priestley, CEO of Goldstone Resources. Goldstone are an AIM-listed gold production and exploration company with two gold projects in Ghana. Thanks for joining me today, Emma.
Thank you very much for having me this morning.
So, after what's been only can be described as a tricky couple of years for the company, given COVID, the war, and the general macro environment, you recently announced a record gold pour in February. Is this the start of a new era for Goldstone?
Certainly is. Yes, thank you. We have been through, we've been through a couple of tricky years ourselves, but we're through that. We've got good processing that is meeting its targets with a nice average 68% recovery for the gold coming through that heap leach operation, which, as we've discussed before, is a good recovery figure for this part of the world in the tropics. Now, as you say, all companies, not just Goldstone, are being hindered by various global economic issues and wars and COVID. But look, we're all coming through it. And even Ghana itself is settling down with its cost of living, and not just cost of living, it's cost of consumables as well. So everything is starting to settle down, which is assisting not just Goldstone, all companies in getting better management control of consumables, so that we can start and work on production costs, getting those all-in sustaining costs down, and obviously that helps then in us building up production in the long run. Clearly, we did, as you say, we've had a record pour, which was over 500 ounces. It was in a single pour from the Homase mine. That was obviously doré, and out of that we did get a nice 430 ounces of gold, Troy gold. So that is, that is good. Now, obviously, and we're building on that, steady but surely, and with obviously the overall target of getting that 1,000 ounces of doré in a month, which I don't think we're far off now.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah, I think you literally started production from memory myself, literally in the middle of COVID, and it was obviously everything was sort of up in the air. And you had I think you had some earlier issues, didn't you, with recovery rates, which you now seem to have managed to improve. So, yeah, a difficult time, but obviously now looks like heading in the right direction.
Correct. Didn't go
Yeah.
under. We're still here. Lots of companies sadly
Yeah.
passed by the way. We're still here, and we're
Yeah.
going to be improving on it.
Excellent. So in terms of Homase then, and now you're sort of regularly pouring gold, what are your sort of near-term and longer-term targets there? I think you've just mentioned 1,000 ounces, but can that production increase with scaling up, or is there sort of some sort of finite production amount where you then have to start thinking about looking at other expansion
Expansion
avenues?
targets. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, the goal for this year is look, we've reached the target which I wanted them to at site, which is the 48 to 50,000 tons of stacked agglomerated ore. And the key thing there is, yes, we can ramp up. We could bring in the second dry plant, and that is obviously a target for us doing later in the year. But with all these things, to commission that second dry plant, it's going to take us about 3 or 4 months. With it's obviously the commissioning. We've got a little bit more of land conveyors to set up, and we've also got to finish the completion of cells 6 and 7, because ideally what we want then is to be continuing the stacking on cells 6, 7, and then obviously continuing the second lift, and possibly even the third lift on the existing pads. We're also looking at extending these pads as well, so not just to keep lengthening them out, more pads, because how we've constructed pads 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 will be like this, is so that we can extend them. So instead of them just being 120 meters long, we can extend them out for about another 50 meters. And that's where the company we've paid we've paid the land compensation. So those are things that we can easily do within the confines of the existing operation. So we've got various options ahead of us that we are continuing to review in our mine planning sessions, which the guys are doing extremely well. And part of that as well, we did build a new operational team at site, and they've all settled in now in the first quarter of this year. So once you've got a good team, things start to improve as well.
Yeah.
So there we go. Now, the other, of course, targets is here as well, is looking at, you mentioned the 6 grams a ton. Now, just let's be clear. I mean, what we're mining now is the oxides, which is that oxide cap, and the oxides are about 40 to 50 meters thick, beneath which there is a transition zone that's about 5 to 10 meters in thickness, which is good compared to other regions in Ghana. You've got much thicker transition zones. And in places right up in the north, it's nearly up to 30 meters of transition zone. So we're very fortunate with that transition zone. And then directly below that transition zone is what we call the fresh ore. It is the sulfides, and it is sulfide ore. And the work that the former owner of this mine, which was then Ashanti Goldfields Corporation, now AngloGold Ashanti, they did do significant test work on that area of the ore body. There was drilling. They took drilling down to about 200 meters, and from all the metallurgical test work that they did, the ore came out to be non-refractory. Now, obviously, there's no such thing as as 100% non-refractory, but we do know it's predominantly non-refractory. Now, upon that, yes, we do want to build on it, and that is obviously one of the objectives,
Yeah.
for later in this year. And it's all started. The planning process is to start that exploration and get those drill rigs turning to drill out those sulfides.
Yeah. What you said non-refractory there for listeners, what does that actually mean? Does that mean it's an easier to mine, or does it mean it's easier to process?
It's easier to process. The non-refractory means that because it just means that it's in an earlier stage of its natural state, so you don't need a roaster or a biox plant before it goes into the mill. Okay, because what you've got to do is break down those sulfides so that they're easily processed in the CIL operation.
Right. And you obviously mentioned there that you believe that the grades could be in excess of 6 grams a ton. If you take your mining operation at Homase now, where I don't know, I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong,
1
something
gram.
like 0.8 or 1 gram a ton or something like
1 gram
that.
a ton average,
Yeah,
yes.
right. If you were to get into this lower zone and start mining at 6 grams a ton, does that presumably will increase your gold output, but will it also lower your all-in serviceable cost, for example?
It will. Look, I'm going to say, it's not that it's a long way to go, but there is a bit of a long way to go on that, because
Mm,
once we get into those sulfide ores, this is when you get into those, that's 2 years down the line. We're not going to be
yeah.
mining them tomorrow, because we will want a different processing method. Okay.
Mm,
And I've always been very clear on that to the market. You get into that, you will need a CIL plant, not a heap leach. Okay.
right.
So, and in that, look, there's many ways of skinning the cat on that as well. There are modular plants available now. Processing plants have moved on considerably in the last 10 years. Once upon a time, to get that, it would have always been a 30 to $40 million plant. But there are modular plants available now, yes, from China, but you can get quite easily 1,000 ton per day
Yeah.
plant that would cost you in the region of about $4 or $5 million US. Now, you get something like that operating, happy days. You can start small and build it up.
Mm,
And in the days of a junior miner, you can't be too ambitious. You've got to start small and build it up. Now, alongside getting into that drilling, alongside building that resource up and hopefully reserve up into those sulfides, is also the planning and the permitting alongside. Because obviously our planning and permitting is for a heap leach operation, and we would obviously then have
mm,
to transfer it all to become a CIL operation, which is what every mine in Ghana has done and elsewhere. So
yeah.
heap leach is a very good way of opening up an ore body, getting it into production, building up a nice base plan, so that you can build from it. So it's all in the planning stages, and that's what we're working on this year.
Okay. So obviously production from that part of the pit would be a bit further down the line.
Yes,
But you would probably want to do some drilling beforehand. If you've got, like, I know Goldstone's currently got a JORC resource of 650,000 ounces of gold.
600.
Sorry,
600.
600 then.
That's
Oh,
right.
and whatever you're mining as well. If you got, like, if you got some sort of like idea of like if you do some drilling on that lower zone and do step out drilling or whatever it is, that you're going to be able to increase that JORC resource, and if you've got some sort of target area in mind that you might be able to get to.
Yeah, we do have a target. Look, I want to get this resource above 1 million ounces. Okay.
Right.
Which we will be doing with infill drilling. And obviously, we do know that this ore body is open at depth and open along strike. Look, if people do go back to historical RNSs, maybe I should do an update RNS on where it is.
Mm.
But there were 3 holes drilled under the former pit that Ashanti Goldfields dug in 2002, 2003. The average holes were down to about 220 meters. We took 3 holes down to 250 meters on the incline, but each of those holes was still at 8 gram, 4 to 5 meters thick. 4 to 5 meters wide of above 8 grams a ton, 8.5 grams a ton, which shows that those holes were still in gold at the bottom of those holes. Why don't we carry on drilling? Simple reason was when we did those 3 holes a few years ago, I just had the buffered budget for 750 meters, and that was it. So it was 3 holes, 250 meters. But at least it started a proof of concept that we took that ore body down another 30 meters in depth, and it showed that we were still in gold at that depth.
Mm.
Along strike, obviously, the ore body is sitting, the JORC resource, is sitting within a 4.4 kilometer strike length. And north and south of that, we have already identified extensions on the oxides, which means obviously it's just going to be further exploration to actually take that deeper to prove up what's underneath. So, look, keep reminding people, we are right next door to, 15 kilometers along strike from one of the biggest mines on the planet,
That's
which is
next door.
Obuasi, and it is next door.
Yeah.
We are in the shadow of their headframe. Now, there's a mine. They are currently mining a kilometer down, okay? And I actually haven't looked at their latest reserve and resource category, but if I remember from rightly, they've got about 15 million ounces in reserve. The resource is much larger, but they're currently mining I think it's 9.5 grams a ton, okay, on average. So, you think of, and I do know that they have much higher grade zones down there. But Obuasi started 125 years ago. And where we are, we're on surface. So we are where Obuasi was 125 years ago. We're a long strike, we're a long trend on the same fissure as they are. So, what we're really working towards here and what I want to get towards is get those drill rigs turning later this year, which is all what we're planning on doing. And then we can start to prove up what we've got here. And hopefully we are that mini Obuasi at the moment.
Okay. Yeah. That sounds good. Okay then. So we haven't really touched on Akrokeri, which is your other project. I think you are
Yes,
100% owned.
we
I know
do. We do.
yeah, I know Akrokeri's a little bit sort of slightly more complex because it's underground mining. But the grades there are quite mouth-watering. I think 24 grams a ton. I think the Glebe head grade is. I know obviously you've just got yourself up and running with Homase. It's hard for any gold company starting off to generate enough cash flow to cover OPEX and G&A and whatever.
Yeah.
So you probably aren't generating the sort of money you need to go in and drill that. But is it still
Yeah.
something of significance and in your company strategy?
It certainly is. Yeah, no, Akrokeri is not forgotten. It does, and it sits directly in the middle between where the Obuasi mine is and our Homase mine. It's slightly different geology where the old timers were mining Akrokeri. It sits on a granite intrusion where you've got a major quartz intrusion coming in those granites, and that quartz lode is about 4 to 5 meters thick. And yeah, sure, it is averaging. Look, I do know it's averaging about 40 grams a ton, which is very nice. Look, that granite intrusion is at surface, and over the last 100 years, a lot of community miners have been chipping away with their hammers and chisels. Not a problem. What we're interested in that target is what sits beneath. And as you know, we did do a little bit of drilling last year, no, 2023, where we put quite a few holes down to follow that lode down. And sure enough, the load came up trumps with, it's averaging there, it's 24 grams a ton. Not a problem. What was more exciting, though, was what was sitting directly south of that old Akrokeri town, where the geology changed. It went into more of the, I'm not a geologist, forgive me, but, it went into more of the metasediments where you got a lot of arsenopyrite coming out and the gold. There was gold indications, obviously. And that's where the geologists got more exciting. Okay, the geology got more exciting. And from a geologist's point of view, that's where they really want to go in and start to do more exploration, because a quartz vein is a quartz vein. That's what primary school geologists do. I hope I'm not being insulting there. But a quartz vein is a quartz vein with beautiful gold nuggets in it. well, I should say visible gold. It's not nuggets. We don't get nuggets in Ghana, but there is visible gold in there, which can just be put through a gravity plant. But the real interest is what lies south of that. So that's the target. Very much on the company's radar. Whether we get to it this year or not, I don't know. But anyway, we'll
Could that
see.
be something that you almost could JV, do a joint venture with, to sort of fast track it or bring it back into sort of focus?
Yeah, are you offering?
Small cat picks don't have the budget for that, but um, okay, well that's great then. So obviously your primary focus at the moment is on Homase,
Yeah.
and rightly so. And but now you're sort of a production company and you're generating
Mm,
cash flow.
yeah.
You've made a big step forwards. It hasn't been easy, obviously.
No.
But what are your aspirations and plans for the company going forward, say, over the next sort of, couple of years?
Well, I don't think it'll be quite a major, but no. Look, every junior has aspirations to grow, and a little bit more so. It's something that I would personally like to take this company from single asset into something a little bit more. So let's see where we go.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for joining us today, Emma, and maybe we'll catch up again soon.
Hope so.
Thanks for joining us. Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed. Thanks, Darren.